So when you're Betfair trading on pre-off horse racing, you're probably using a ladder. And you'll often see me staring at the ladder, as I have done for the best part of 20 years, intensely trying to understand which way things are going to move. So my question to you is, do you think that prices are correlated? How can you use that information? You'll often see me sort of saying, well, something's coming down here, so that's going to influence that. Is that true? And can you quantify it? Well, the answer is yes, you can. I have. And if you want to understand the sort of things that I'm looking at and how it should influence your trading, then watch the rest of this video. If you're interested in trading with Betangel, then visit our website where you can download a free trial of Betangel Professional and Betangel Trader. If you want to learn how to use them, then visit the Academy where we give you a detailed, structured walkthrough of each product. And if you're an existing user, then head on over to the forum where we have a load of files for you to download to customize and use within Betangel. So I'm sure you've seen me discussing in videos about the way that prices move, and I'm looking for clues as to where stuff is going to go. So it could be I'm looking at a chart to give me an indication as to general direction. I could be looking at order flow to look specifically at what's happening within the market and how that is influencing things. But I'm also looking across the ladders as well to try and understand what sort of correlation is going on and where the backing support or the laying is taking place within the market. And that's a very key and important component for me, simply because that tells me a lot about whether the position that I have is supported or not. Because one of the things that you have to be aware of with trading is that it's very, very rare that you're going to be able to predict something 100%. That is the essence of trading. And it fools a lot of people. But nonetheless, even with all of my experience, I still get things wrong all of the time. And I say all of the time, you know, maybe 3 out of 10 races, 2 or 3 out of 10 races, I will get wrong. And things just go wrong. Things happen that you don't expect. Money arrives that you couldn't have possibly seen, or unusual situations develop that basically throw out your trade. So it's important to understand that even with all of this information, you are going to get things wrong, and understanding that and coming to terms with that quickly is one of the key and most fundamental important parts of trading. And, when something goes wrong, I just sort of think, well, you know what, I couldn't have anticipated that. I don't know, there's nothing I could do about it. Next race. And then I just carry on and move on during the day, because I know by the end of the day, everything will be fine, definitely by the end of the week, and absolute certainty over the course of the month. It's just that every now and again, you get days, situations, courses, activity that sometimes just throws you a curveball. Sometimes you can adapt and adjust to that, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. And unfortunately, that is the nature of trading. So what specifically am I looking for when I'm looking at those ladders? So the first thing to understand is that you can actually display more than 4 ladders on Betangel. When I present trading videos, I try and simplify them. So I remove all additional settings and features and modifications that I've made, and I present you with a standard 4 ladder display. That is just so that I keep things simple and understandable. But I do suggest that you take full advantage of all of the features of Betangel to enhance what you can see within the market, because that is where you will find an edge. There's lots of ladder trading software out there that's just a basic ladder, but with Betangel you can put things like markers, additional information. You can display a whole variety of charts, including advanced charts above, below, to the side, to the left, to the right, up, down. You can display 4,000 ladders. You can have the ladders arranged in columns and rows, and there's so much that you can do that I encourage you to pursue that, because if you get a unique view on the market that only you can see, then that will elevate you above other people just using a standard interface. So if we look at the ladder on Betangel, you can see a fairly standard layout. But if we want to modify that, we can actually go to the ladder settings. Now it's important to note that we have general settings relating to things that happen on Betangel. And there are so many modifications you can make to the ladder that we actually do have a separate ladder settings area. And once you've created a set of specific settings in here, you can actually save it and switch between them very, very quickly by just using the drop down menu. But if we click on that spanner, it will bring up all of the settings, and you can do simple things like expand the number of ladders. You can go from just 1 up to 18. You can display it across a number of rows. So say, for example, we want to display a ladder, 2 lots of 4. You can see you can do that as well. But generally most people would sort of have a standard sort of setup here. But you can see you can modify many different things within here, including things like the traded volume amount. So if we look at the amount of money that's been matched here, we can put that in there. But we can change that to a percentage of volume and those sort of things. There are so many options. I'm not going to run through all of them for you. It's probably better that you just have a fiddle with the settings so you can work out what to do from there. Markers I've touched on as well. So a marker can display pretty much anything, because you can display fixed price, but you can also display a shared stored value or a historical value. So if you use a little bit of automation, you can pump information into the ladder via a marker to mark key critical points within the market, or all sorts of information derived from however you wish. And you can see you can display different types of charts, and you can also display additional information. And again, you can do preset information, or you can do stored values that will allow you to either display information that you've derived or that has happened in the past. And then you've also got preset information that you can display on top of the ladders, or pretty much wherever you want. Actually, you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. There are other things to explore within here as well, so you may want to explore those. But rather than spend a lot of time on this video discussing each of those components, go off and have a play of them and learn about all the things that you can modify on the ladder. When I look at the ladder, when I turn up to a market, predominantly the first thing that I'm interested in is how much money has been matched on the runners that I can see within the market. Because typically when I put a 4-ladder display up, that will cover about 80% of all of the selections within the market. And if you're looking at a short priced favorite, that the volume will be skewed towards that favorite, and the market will be skewed towards the movement on that favorite. But if I'm looking at a competitive handicap, the money's going to be spread across 6 to 8 ladders. And if you want to pick up on a move on something that's happening, or you want to get a better view on the market, then it may be advisable to display more ladders. But basically, that's the initial thing that I'm looking at, is how much volume is there within the market that I'm looking at within the ladder itself, because that's what's going to drive the activity within the market. If I've got 4 ladders and 80% of the volume, I'm not too concerned about what's happening at the back of the book, because that's probably unlikely to influence what I'm looking at within the market itself. It's more likely to be the other way around in terms of activity within the market. So yeah, the first thing to do is to understand how much money is being traded on those runners, and that will give you a good indication that your setup is appropriate for understanding what's going to happen next within the market. If you don't want to heavily modify the ladder, but you need to understand how much is being matched across the market, then one of my suggestions for you is to go to the market overview screen. This will tell you how much money is being matched on the front 4. So we can see at the moment that the amount of money being matched on the favorite is 40%. So we've got 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% on the front 4. And you can see here that that accounts for the majority of activity that's going to take place within this market. But if you want a quick overview, for want of a better word, of what's going on within the market, then the market overview screen is a useful tool to be able to do that. So if you're interested in how movement can actually influence the price elsewhere, the important thing to understand is that the market has to revolve around 100%. It cannot be persistently below or above that. It has to be in or around that level within the market. And therefore, if the price moves over here, then the market will correct in the other direction over here to maintain that equilibrium at 100%. What am I talking about? Let's simplify things really easily. And that is, let's say that we have 2 tennis players. They're both equally matched, and therefore they go off at decimal odds of 2. They are priced at evens within the market. They've got an equal chance of being able to win that particular match. Let's say player A gets a break of serve and his odds move down to 1.5. All of a sudden, the book is imbalanced, and the price on the second favourite has to move out to account for the movement of the player who's got the break of serve. So if they started at odds of 2, he's down to 1.5. The odds of the other player have to go out to 3 to counterbalance that and create a 100% book. And that is the way that the market works. It's fundamental to the operation of a betting market. And when Betfair have introduced things like cross-matching, that reinforces that even more. So, even if somebody puts odds in at slightly the incorrect price, cross-matching ensures that the market maintains this parity at 100%. So correlation within the market is true, it happens, it definitely occurs, and your objective as a trader is to actually spot it. Now, if we actually go into BetAngel, you can actually have a play around with this yourself and begin to understand exactly how price movements are likely to influence the movement within the actual market itself. So if we change the price on one particular runner, you'll be able to understand that we need to change the price on another to be able to rebalance the book at 100%. So let's have a look at that on BetAngel. So you can see I'm looking here at a race on BetAngel, and we've got 6 ladders up, and this is a 6-runner race. So we have 100% of the market in front of us on this display. All of these prices will be correlated. If one moves, another has to move to bring the book towards 100%. What do I mean by that? Well, the best way to do this is to go into the bookmaking area on BetAngel. And you can see we've got options here to back, lay, or manual. If we click on the back side, you can see that it's reflecting the book on the back side. The lay side is reflecting stuff on the lay side. And if I click on manual, then that basically allows us to set our own prices. Now, the interesting thing about this is, let's say the price on True Hero starts to drift. So we can increment it this way. We can do it slowly. Or we could just say that it price drifts from 6 to 7, for example. Can you see the book percentage is now 94.5? So in order for that to bring itself back to 100%, then we need to start doing something else. So if the price on True Hero is going out, then the price on the favourite would need to come in until the book ends up back above 100%. So you can see here that if True Hero drifts from 5 to 7, then it could quite possibly be that the favourite, I was going to try and pronounce it, but I won't, will end up at odds of 2.1. But of course, you know, maybe it goes to there, and then can you see we can sort of fiddle around, or maybe it's just not that moves, but maybe something else moves. You can begin to play around with a variety of different scenarios that will tell you how the book could possibly reach 100%. And the key behind doing this is basically to show you the proportion in which odds move and how that creates that 100% book. This will give you a clue as to how far a price could go, given that one price moves in one direction or another, and how much that moves. That will give you a good indication as to how far the market could move to bring the book back to 100%. So when I turn up to a market, what I do is I press the enter key, and that centralizes the ladder across all of those runners. That allows me to see how any deviation within the price movement on the ladders is influencing the trade that I'm about to do. And when I've actually entered the trade, then I press enter again. If you press enter, it centralizes the ladders at the last traded price, and you can see if that's supporting or going against your position. It's a very key thing to do. The reason that I do that is because all prices are correlated. But also understand, especially if you get an idea of the pricing of the market, that is going to influence how the activity on the ladders influences your trade. If you get a very short priced favourite in a small field, in other words, there aren't many runners in that particular race, a small movement on that, because it's such a big chunk of the market, it's going to send everything else flying out. And that will be the opposite if you're looking at a very competitive handicap with a big priced favourite. But fundamentally speaking, that correlation is part of the way that the market works. It's the structure of the market. That's why I'm always interested in it. And movement across the ladder is necessarily going to influence the trade that you're on. So it's always worth paying particular attention to it. But also bear in mind that it's proportional, because if we look at the way that the ladder is constructed, something moving at a price of 6 is going to have less influence than something at 3, something at 2, and so on. So it's important to understand how that interacts, but you can do that by playing around with some of the features, like the bookmaking feature, to give you an indication or an understanding of how much the market has to move to compensate for movement that you see elsewhere. But I would also recommend that you use features like markers on the ladders and additional information, because that would just be to give you a slightly better steer in terms of what's likely to happen within the market. It will indicate to you where all of the pressure is building within the market and how that's likely to influence your overall position. And that, along with other key features that we have on the ladders within BetAngel, will just enable you to trade just that little bit better and get a little bit more information than other people. But as a fundamental strategy, looking at price movement on the ladder and how that's supporting your current position is actually a good thing to do. It's something that I've done for as long as I can remember. I've quantified it and I've studied it in great depth, and I can look at a particular ladder screen and it will give me a fair indication based upon what I see on that screen and the build-up of activity about whether I'm in the right position or not. So I suggest that that is something that you do too. Anyhow, I hope that video has been useful for you.